Margaret Thatcher, you've been all over the world seeing lots and lots of governments. If you could change anything in the way the British operate its government, what would you do?
I don't think I could just answer that question just like that. I think we operate ours on the whole very well. The government has a majority in the House of Commons, which means that if we're reasonable, we can get our legislation through, and so long as we keep full contact with members and with people and know what they want, we have a good chance of getting legislation through the House. We don't have the United States problems, and also we're seen to be very, very
Margaret Thatcher was Britain's first female Prime Minister and was one of the dominant political figures of the 20th century. Margaret Hilda Roberts was born in 1925 in Lincolnshire, England. She was a dedicated student at school and went on to study chemistry at Oxford University. After graduation, she moved to Essex in England to take a job as a research chemist. She then joined the local Conservative Society and impressed the society officials so much that she was selected at the age of 25 to stand as candidate for a local election in nearby Dartford in 1951. It was here that she met Dennis Thatcher, a local businessman who she married shortly after. Thatcher was defeated in the 1950 and 51 elections, but during the campaign she studied law and qualified as a barrister in 1953. Thatcher was elected as a Conservative Member of Parliament in 1959 for the London Borough of Finchley. She made her way through the party ranks and was made Junior Minister for Pensions under Prime Minister Harold Macmillan's leadership. The leader of the Conservatives, Edward Heath, became Prime Minister in 1970, and Thatcher was made Secretary for Education. After the Conservatives were defeated again in 1974, Thatcher challenged Heath for leadership of the Conservative Party, and won. Thatcher was made Prime Minister in 1979 after the Conservatives won the election, becoming Britain's first ever female Prime Minister. She began a process of privatising state-owned industries and utilities, reducing the power of trade unions, lowering income taxes and social expenditure on education and housing. Inflation in Britain was reduced, but employment rose and Britain entered recession in the early 1980s. Thatcher increased taxes to stave off the recession, which led to widespread rioting in 1981. By 1982, the economy showed signs of recovery, but unemployment stood at over 3 million, a level not seen since the 1930s. In April 1982, the ruling military junta in Argentina ordered the invasion of the British-controlled Falkland Islands, triggering the Falklands War. The Argentinians were defeated by the British forces and surrendered in June 1982. Thatcher showed herself to be a strong and capable war leader, and with the beginning of an economic recovery, Thatcher was re-elected as Prime Minister in 1983. In the early 1980s, prisoners in Northern Ireland from the IRA began hunger strikes to regain their status as political prisoners. In 1984, the IRA planted a bomb at the Conservative Party conference in Brighton in an assassination attempt which killed 5 people, but narrowly missed Thatcher. The National Coal Board proposed the closure of 20 of the 174 state-owned coal mines. Thatcher refused to meet the union's demands, and after a year on strike, the miners' union conceded. The cost to the economy was estimated at £1.5 billion, and the further closure of mines across the country resulted in tens of thousands of job losses. Thatcher formed a close relationship with the US.
And it is a so much more vital, dynamic country to be proud of.
Privatization.
Both supported the rise of Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Thatcher won a third term in office in 1987, but further controversial policies, including the introduction of the poll tax, a standard-rate community tax for every adult in the country, and her opposition to closer integration to Europe, led to a leadership challenge in 1990. She resigned as Prime Minister and was succeeded by John Major. Thatcher left the House of Commons.
We can only spend a certain amount on our election campaign. It depends whether you're a rural seat or a town seat.
At the age of 87, her legacy remains as one of the dominant world political figures of the 20th century.